Wendy, so good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Diana. I'm excited to be here.
I'm always very curious about preventive care when it comes to nutrition because I am blessed with good metabolism, but sometimes I realize there's so much information out there that if I was challenged in my diet, if I was needing information, I would be overwhelmed with where to go find it. Are you in the local area? Are you in Doylestown?
I am. I'm right in Buckingham, so I've been here for most of my adult life. So I'm right here in Buckingham.
Perfect. And what kind of population do you serve? What is the main client that could benefit from working with you?
Many of my clients have chronic health concerns or symptoms that are labeled as unknown or idiopathic, and they might have already been seeing many different practitioners, and maybe they've been told that there's nothing else that they can do for their health. They might feel like they've exhausted many of the traditional methods of helping to get to the roots of what's going on with them. And many of my clients are just looking for another way to support themselves. Most of my clients are the type that it doesn't sit well with them when they're told there's nothing else you can do. So I usually see motivated clients who are really looking to kind of educate themselves about how they can better support themselves, no matter what type of condition they might have. But a lot of people with chronic autoimmune conditions, especially, can be helped with functional medicine and functional nutrition.
That's really exciting to hear. What would you say is the main symptom or the main complaint that your clients bring you?
Well, that is a very loaded question, because a lot of people think when you tell them you practice functional nutrition counseling that this is just for people that are having nutritional or digestive issues. Like maybe I'm having pain with digestion, or maybe I've been told that my condition is related to my digestion. And what's true is that, yes, those things can be helped with functional medicine and functional nutrition, but also things outside of the digestive system can be related to our functional nutrition. And basically, when you look at our nutrition, it's the first time that our body is exposed to an input. And we do it all throughout the day. And it is information for our cells. And our cells are at the basis of how our organs and our systems in our body work. So if those cells are not getting the information that they need, then you can have symptoms in any part of the body. So it's not just digestive system symptoms that we're looking at. We're looking at mental fog. We're looking at pain. We're looking at fatigue. We're looking at pins and needles, neuropathy. We're looking at, and yes, some people do have those digestive complaints, but it's not just those complaints that we see, because it's all tied together. If our body cannot assimilate and absorb nutrients the way it's supposed to, that's going to affect all of our body systems, and we might start getting symptoms from any body symptom.
That is fascinating, because I understand myself the relationship between mind and body when it comes to pain. And I would have never thought that somebody complaining from, say, pins and needles or some sort of autoimmune that they don't really tie up with food right away could be connected and addressed. Because sometimes these clients of mine too, that are at the end of the rope, they don't know what else to try, because everything that they've done, nothing has helped. So it's so interesting to see that you're talking about the gut brain.
Yes. Yes. And not just the gut brain, but the gut talks to every other system in our body. And if the gut and the digestive system are not operating and functioning optimally, you can literally have any other system in the body start to be out of balance. So it is very paramount, and it doesn't mean everybody is having gut problems or that everybody is having digestive problems, but it is a very important place to start when working with somebody, because it's so foundational for every other system in the body.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's usually an area that I don't consider myself very knowledgeable in. So I unfortunately cannot help the people that I work with in giving them any recommendation. Like I said earlier, I feel overwhelmed sometimes with all these experts on the internet and all the books written about it. But just to give some general idea for the one listening, what is the main difference between functional nutrition and your typical dietary recommendations, or nutrition if you go to conventional medicine?
That's a great question. So traditional nutrition education can be very valuable for people, but usually it's quite generic, and maybe talking about recommended daily allowances, talking about your micronutrients, and there's certainly value in learning things like that, but it's important to understand that where those recommended daily allowances came from, they were actually created during World War II in an effort to prevent the soldiers from getting extreme disease states. So those recommended daily allowances were never supposed to be used for optimal health. They were just to prevent the soldiers from getting extreme conditions. So that's number one. Number two is that as a functional nutrition counselor, I'm not just looking at nutrition. Functional nutrition counseling is also considering all of the inputs that can affect your health. So it is a more holistic type of working with people who are functional nutrition practitioners. Nutrition can be a very big part of what's going on with somebody, but it can also be lifestyle factors. It could be environmental exposures. It could be mindset. And we consider all these things when we're working with someone. So I'm not going to give you a meal plan, but we will talk about food if I feel like that's a big part of what's going on with you. But there is so much more than just nutrition when you're working with somebody functionally.
Great. I love to see that the holistic approach and how it takes into consideration the person's lifestyle and their environment. What do they do besides the fuel that they consume? Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And what would be, for example, if you can give me an idea of working with you, what kind of services would you provide that are different past the consultation and the assessment? So once you decide on the plan or course of treatment, how would that look like?
So what that looks like for me personally is I do an intake session with people, and that usually encompasses 2 different sessions because I go very in depth with people. I want to know all about people's history. I want to know if there are any known genetic things that run in your family. I want to know any exposure that you might have had to viruses, illnesses, chronic antibiotic use when you were a child or a teen. I want to know about your work situation, your home life, your birth order. We go very in depth with trying to find out as much as we can about an individual, because it all matters. It all can influence your body and your health. So that's why that session takes 2 separate sessions. So at the end of that session, I will present somebody with my initial recommendations, and that's going to be nutrition recommendations, but also it might also be some lifestyle. We might talk about, for any particular individual, we might talk about stress management more than others. We might talk about the importance of sleep and how that is so critical for all of our body systems working properly, and even our digestive system works best if we have enough sleep. So tying all of those things together, giving somebody a real roadmap, like a starting off point, is what I offer with my first 2 intake sessions. So that comes kind of packaged. And then from there, a lot of people choose to go on and work with me because we're working towards some goal. And it's not going to be a quick fix solution. I know some people are sad to hear that, but most people's bodies didn't get into their symptoms or disease states overnight. It happened slowly and gradually, probably without you being aware that there were imbalances in your body. And over time, those built up, and now you're experiencing symptoms and even disease. And so it's a process. It's definitely not quick fix resolution, but what I hope to provide people with is an initial roadmap of where I think we need to work more. And then if clients choose to continue working with me, we work usually on a weekly basis. And then as people are feeling more comfortable with managing what they're doing themselves, I might start to see them less frequently. And I have a couple clients who I see, they just like to see me monthly. They feel pretty in control of what they're doing right now, but they just like to run things by me every once in a while. And I am in no way an expert in functional medicine, but one of my strongest desires is to bring a functional medicine and a functional nutrition approach to people in an affordable manner. Right now, some people seem priced out of getting that kind of help. And I think it's too important. I think everybody needs to have access to this type of information.
That's amazing. Yeah, that was one of the questions I had, because back in the day when I was running a wellness center that I co-founded, I wanted to include functional medicine as the baseline of packaged services, and it was so differently priced, just beginning with the sample of tests or blood panels that they needed to get started, that it was prohibitive for a lot of our clients. Yeah. And I felt so bad because it was frustrating not to offer what I thought it was the highest quality of support in that area, paired with what I was able to do with massage or acupuncture or my own services. So I'm so happy to know that you're working hard to make it affordable and for people to give it a chance, because it's not so well known. How did you come about learning this? What got you interested in functional nutrition?
I am by trade an occupational therapist. So I worked in traditional occupational therapy settings for 28 years. And I began seeing my clients having more and more chronic problems and chronic illnesses, chronic diseases. I had clients that were on pages of medications and not knowing what they were taking them for. Not everybody, but I saw this trend happening, and people expressing to me their confusion about not knowing what was going on with them and why this particular condition or disease happened to them. So that was one thing. And then I experienced my own, I'll call it my own health crisis about 9 years ago, where I went to see multiple specialists, and they did the best they could for me to try and find a diagnosis. I eventually was given a diagnosis, which is probably more of a catch-all diagnosis. We don't know what else to call it, and told that medicine was the only way that I could manage my symptoms. And at the time, I was a busy mom and still raising a family, working, and I felt like I was resigned. I have to accept this. I have to accept that my body has just somehow come down with this condition, and now I just have to take this medicine for the rest of my life. And there was some value in taking that medicine. It did allow me to function to a certain extent, but it never sat well with me that one day I just woke up and had this disease or had this condition. And so I did my own research. I researched functional medicine. I have some family members and friends who encouraged me to listen to different professionals in that world. And I came upon many people that I follow. And I did my own education in functional medicine. And then I took a course in functional nutrition counseling with the Functional Nutrition Alliance. And that's with Andrea Nakayama. She's a functional medicine nutritionist. She has a wonderful program. The way that she teaches where food meets your physiology, and the way that she just empowers clinicians to go out there and bring this to the masses, because people need to know this information. And then I'm also studying at the Institute of Functional Medicine. So I will have my certificate as a functional medicine practitioner from the IFM when I'm completed with that.
Wow, that's super interesting that it was your own need to understand what was going on with you and heal yourself first. And that's so typical, I guess, of health practitioners that are committed to what we do from a passionate place, because we see the transformation that gave us. I can relate exactly to that with my own path, how mainly I found so much power in what I was doing with my own healing path that I could help others. I wanted to help others. It's almost as if you learn something so great that you can't help to share it with other people. You want everybody to know how powerful it is. Yes.
Right. Or you feel like you're empowered when you learn this, how the body really works together. And I was a, veteran occupational therapist. I was trained in anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. I took those anatomy labs and cadaver labs, but it's about how all the systems work together. And we've kind of gotten away from that in Western medicine. We've kind of chopped everybody up into little body parts, and we send you to specialists for this and specialists for that. But people are whole beings, and our body systems don't work like that inside of our body. They work together. They speak to each other. And you beautifully said before, like our brain and our gut are so connected, and so is every other system in the body connected to each other. So when I found this methodology, it made such sense to me. And really the hero in everybody's story is themselves. And I feel like I am just a guide for them to figure out their own hero's journey, because they are the ones who are going to in turn take this knowledge and education and feel the empowerment that they have control, a lot more control over what's happening to their health.
Wow, that's so great to hear, the empowerment that comes from becoming your own hero, because a lot of the trying everything and nothing works is so disempowering and gives you hopelessness and this end of the world kind of feeling. I see it too much. And I love that is at the core of the benefits that you can provide. And it travels through other areas too, because challenges keep happening. And then you feel that you have a way to figure out what is going on between your mind, your body, all the systems working together. That's exactly my principle when I work with people. And then you feel strong, confronting next coming challenges, right? And that's just having a recipe that you might not know if it works later on, which happens a lot with, you cannot necessarily apply what is one part of the body with the other if you're thinking in parts. But if you're thinking in systems, you know that a little change in one part of the system affects the whole, no matter where you are starting.
Exactly. Beautifully said. Yes.
Awesome. One more thing I want to share. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was going to share one more thing with the watchers, the viewers, which is when we talked at that networking event, and you mentioned something about you'll be able to go with people to do a shopping errand or look at their pantries or guide them into what it would look like to have wholesome foods, right? When it comes specifically with food, which again, I insist is so confusing these days. I
Yeah.
tried so many different variations of diets that I felt I would take this part of this diet and that part of the other and this one, or crazy long shopping list that I could never keep up with to try new recipes. So is that something you offer to everybody? Is that like one-on-one case? Can people imagine you providing that kind of assistance?
Yes. I mean, I really will try to work with people wherever their pain points are, wherever it feels like that they need the most help. So with everybody that I work with, what we do is personalized. So it can be very, very confusing right now. I call it nutrition noise. Some of it's good information, some of it's not good information. Who do I believe? What should I try? What's right for me? So that's why I love this methodology, because we're going to figure out what your personal body needs. Your biology and your chemistry is slightly different than everybody else's, and what you need is going to be different. And people that are having trouble with what are the things that I should shop for? How should I read a label? Those are very actionable things that I teach people. And if somebody needs to meet me for a session at at the shopping store or at the grocery store, and they want me to help them like learn how, like, these are the areas of the store I want you to focus on. These are the ingredients that I want you to focus on. This is why we're going to not entertain these foods right now. And foods aren't bad, right? Like foods, there are some additives and preservatives in the processing process that aren't good for our body because our body doesn't recognize them as food. But when it comes to food, it can be bad or good for different reasons. A food that's really good for me might be not good for you if your body is sensitive to it and is mounting inflammation against it. And that's one of the things that I learned is that when you're intaking food that your body is sensitive to on an ongoing basis, you can actually stimulate your immune system. And that's very important to know and to find out what those things are, because that can lead to things like autoimmunity. It's one system that is not functioning properly, but then it's stimulating another system, your immune system, to mount a response to something it's not recognizing as food. So when you start to tie, you tie those loose ends, you connect those dots, people have these aha moments. Oh my goodness, that could be one of the roots as to why my body is acting the way it is, and I have these symptoms. And just to be clear, there's usually not one root. There's many roots to health conditions. And usually it's something that kind of tips the scales. And a lot of times we're not aware that our body is starting to go out of balance because we might not have any symptoms right away.
That's so on point with what I see too. It's multiple pronged, many variables combined. Sometimes something that you think is playing a big role is not. The source of the pain is not where the pain is showing up, which can be so confusing, right? And another thing I was thinking about is arthritis when you mentioned the inflammation, because a lot of times we hear these sad stories again, people finding out that they have arthritis, but it's not so bad to operate on or surgically replace a joint. And I wonder, would a change in diet or lifestyle when it comes to not the movement part, which is the one I can help them with, but even the amount of water. I heard recently somebody was drinking too much water.
Yes.
And they had too much sodium. So all these variables. And have you been successful at altering the inflammation coming from arthritis with your practice?
Yes. I mean, inflammation can creep up in any area of the body. And for people that are more susceptible to having, joint issues and cartilage issues and maybe old injuries, for them, it might show up as joint pain. And so really trying to point out those connections for people. inflammation in your body can show up as pain anywhere. And one of the biggest sources of inflammation, and that's kind of what we're trying to get at when we work with people functionally, is where is inflammation coming from for this person? But that's again why we always start with the digestive system. Sometimes it's the food you're eating. Sometimes it is. Not all the time. Sometimes it can be related to repetitive activity you're doing. I mean, I'm an occupational therapist, so that's something that's very, inbred in what I do and teach people in ergonomics and things like that. But it's how it's all connected. How could it be food? Yes, it could be food.
I love that. That's so helpful. You've shared so much wonderful, useful information, and I want to keep the chat not too long. I was promising about 20 minutes. I think we went a little over, only because I want people to be able to sit through it and pay attention fully, because there's a lot of value in what you share. So my last question to you is, where can people find you? What is the name of your business? Where are you, if you're working on location or remotely or both? How can they get to know you better?
People can visit my website. My company is Kennedy Integrative Wellness, and they can find me at kennedyintegrativewellness@gmail.com. And I work remotely with people, but I also work in person with people. Some people come to my office. Some people I will meet out at a public place. And some people I will go into their homes. So I really do kind of run the gamut of what works for people. I also continue to work as an occupational therapist in private practice. I'm a certified hand therapist, so I see people with hand and upper extremity conditions and injuries as well.
Amazing. And I looked at your website, that is beautiful. And I saw people can book a discovery call with you.
Yes, yes, they can. And thank you very much. Yes.
Yes, wonderful. So there's no excuse, guys. If you are curious, if you want to meet this beautiful and very knowledgeable practitioner, go ahead, take a look. And I don't know, how long can the consultation run? 20 minutes, half an hour?
Yeah, 20 minutes. Sometimes I've been on the phone a half an hour with people. I try to do a discovery call just so you can ask me your questions to see if we would be a good fit. Or maybe you're just, maybe you're curious about what it looks like for you in particular. I'm happy to talk with people about that.
I love that. So in 20 minutes, half an hour, you can find a solution for something you've been in the desert for years. And that makes me so happy to be able to share this with my community and with people, hopefully, that can find you too through our channels. So I really, really thank you, Wendy, for this time and for your knowledge. And you're such a kind person to talk to. So I appreciate
thank you, Diana. And I just say right back at you. I love what you're doing. You're helping so many people. And this is what it's about, right? Like building a community of people that are really looking to empower others, how they can help themselves.
100%. And finding ways and avenues to collaboration and interdisciplinary sharing of what works when we have a common mindset, I think is so important. I'm beyond competitive, separative approaches when we leave people alone, going into all these different practitioners, trying to find out what is going on and how to put the parts together.
Right.
So the human being is one integrated organism. Everything is connected. Let's connect among us practitioners and see how can we help the individual make sense of their own life and mind-body health as one. So I'm really happy, and may we have many more of these conversations. It's my intention that I get to interview a lot of local practitioners, and you're the first one. So thank you so much for your time once again.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. You have a beautiful day. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.